And hello everybody. I'm happy to see you here. I don't see you, but I know that you are here, and I'm happy that you joined this webinar. Today is our topic number 14, and today we will discuss some vocabulary. So we will have some vocabulary practice, and our topic will be science and technology. And also we will do some reading tasks, and of course, as usual, we will discuss some tips, and we will practice a lot. And let's start. So let's start with the reading part. So you know that on the test, reading, that is the second section, so the second part of the test. Yeah, and let's try to recollect which tasks and how many tasks we have in this section. I'm sure you know it all, but just let's refresh. So there are 4 tasks, yeah, and 22 questions altogether. The first task in the reading section, that is task 4, and questions from 17 to 21, and that is a matching task. It is like the easiest task in the reading section. A lot of people say that that is the easiest task on the test. And you will have 5 short texts or 5 short advertisements, оголошення, and you will need to match them with some information that is true or that is stated in this advertisement. The next task will be a multiple choice task. That is task 5 and questions from 22 to 26. You are given a big text, so usually it's rather big, it's rather long and sometimes difficult, and you will have 5 questions. For each question, you will have 4 choices, 4 options, A, B, C, and D. So according to the information in the text, you will need to choose the correct option, the correct answer. The next one, that is task 6, questions from 27 to 32, and that is one more matching task. Yeah, but this matching task is different from the first one, and it is more difficult. So here you will be given 6 small texts, but they will be bigger than in task 4, or it can be one text divided into several parts. And again, so you will need to choose, you will need to match each text or each part of the text with the information that is given there. And the last one, that is task 7, questions 33 to 38, and that is fill in the gaps task. You will be given one text that is not really long, and the text will have 6 gaps. So for each gap, you will need to choose one option. Sometimes you will need to continue a sentence, sometimes you will need to find the beginning of a sentence, or sometimes you will have some separate sentences which you will need to insert, like put in this text. And so what is important to remember here is that you will have 2 extra options in this task. So you will have 6 gaps, but you will have 8 options. So 2 of them you will not need to use. And today, actually, we will talk about this task. So we will discuss task number 7. And first of all, so let's start with some tips that can help you at this task. So we will discuss them first, and then we will try to practice, and we will try to use them all in practice. So first of all, look through the text briefly. So that is important to understand what is the topic, what the text is about. So look through it very quickly, don't read every word, but understand what it's about, like get the main idea. Then decide so look at the sentences with the gaps, or at the parts of the text with the gaps, and decide, so try to predict, спробуйте передбачити what kind of information is needed in this gap. Тобто подивіться уважно на самі пропуски. І подивіться на те, що йде перед пропуском, що йде після пропуска, і спробуйте подумати, навіть перед тим, як дивитесь на варіанти відповідей, спробуйте подумати, яка інформація тут має бути в цьому пропуску. So, is it about an object? Is it about time, place or description of something? Та, звертаємо на увагу, чи логічно, щоб далі в нас йшлось про час, чи про місце, чи опис чогось. Також дивіться на граматику. Тобто, якщо в нас йде пропуск, після пропуска в нас йде дієслово в формі однини, значить ми розуміємо, що в пропуску в нас має бути дієслово, іменник в однині. Тобто також дивимось на граматичні моменти. So then you try to choose the best option and also check the grammar once again. So check whether the answer suits the gap. whether you have correct subject-verb agreement, noun-pronoun agreement, if the correct verb tense is used. Після того, як ставили, ще раз перевірте граматику. Наприклад, якщо в нас весь текст в минулому часі, а в пропуску ви використовуєте теперішній, можливо, це не зовсім логічно. Тобто ми звертаємо увагу і на зміст, і на граматику в цьому завданні. And after you have completed the tasks, reread the completed text. So read this text again. And if everything looks logical to you grammatically and in terms of the meaning, then all your answers are correct. So they are likely to be correct. Після того, як заповнили пропуски, перечитайте ще раз. Так вам легше буде зрозуміти, чи дійсно текст виглядає логічним, чи нічого не вибивається. І тоді це буде підтвердженням того, що ви все ж таки правильно виконали це завдання. And then, in the end, make sure the extra answers don't suit any of the gaps. So you will have two extra options which you don't need to use, but don't forget about them. So after you have completed the text, after you've done all the numbers, so look at the extra answers once again and make sure that they don't suit any of the gaps. Після того, як ми зробили завдання, ми не забуваємо про ті відповіді, які в нас залишились зайвими, ми ще раз на них дивимось і перевіряємо себе, тобто нам потрібно впевнитись, чи дійсно вони не підходять. So let's try to do it. You have the text, and you have 6 gaps in it. So let's try to use the tips, and let's try to do this task together. So first of all, I will give you 30 seconds to look through the text and try to understand what is the topic. So 30 seconds for you to just get the idea of the text. Okay, so now I hope that you get the idea of the text. It will be about koalas, and it will be about some scientific research. So the study that is connected to the temperature regulation of koalas. Тепер ми знаємо тему, ми розуміємо, що це про коал, про якесь дослідження пов'язане з цим. And what we do next? So before I show you the options, before I show you the answers which we can choose from, we will try to look at all the gaps and we will try to predict what kind of information is needed here. Попрактикуємо з вами перед тим, як ви побачите варіанти відповідей, тобто ті частинки, які ми можемо вставити в текст, ми спробуємо подивитись на пропуски і передбачити, яка інформація тут має бути. So let's start with 33. The team was studying, and then the gap. Yeah, so in 33, yeah, so you're right. I can see good ideas in the chat. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, and in 33, so then we will need to tell maybe what they were studying. Yeah, so we see that the team was studying, and then maybe we need to state the topic. So it can be a noun, yes, or also it can be a relative pronoun. So we can say the team was studying what, where, why, how. Тобто тут в 33-му пропуску в нас може й далі йти іменник, вони вивчали що. У нас назва предмета чи теми. Або в нас можуть йти такі займенники, як how, where, how. Тобто вони вивчали що, вони вивчали як, вони вивчали де. So we will try to look for such information. Then in number 34, we have, however, scientists have unlocked that koalas hug trees. And avoid dehydration. So first of all, after the gap, we can see an and avoid. So that is and infinitive. So we know that if after and we use an infinitive, then before and, so it's very likely that we will have one more infinitive. Тобто ми тут бачимо, що після пропуску в нас йде and і інфінітив. Ми знаємо, що and – це сполучник сурядності. Тобто якщо після and в нас є інфінітив, значить майже гарантовано перед пропуском, перед and в нас має бути йти ще один інфінітив. Тобто така сама форма. And also we have the information that koalas hug trees. Koala обіймають дерева, обнімають. Yeah, so then maybe that will be logical if we have the explanation why they do that. And to tell about the purpose, in English we can use infinitives, or we can use to do something, or we can use in order to. Yeah, and if we use such phrases, we will have one more infinitive that will go before and avoid. Да, тобто тут логічно також, щоб нам пояснило, навіщо вони це роблять, і якраз, щоб пояснити, навіщо, ми можемо використати інфінітив або фразу in order to, і також інфінітив. Then, in number 35. So in 35, please look at what goes after the gap. So after the gap, we have was. So we understand that before was, we need to use a noun, so a singular noun. A noun in singular or an uncountable noun. Тут у нас стоїть was після пропуска в 35-му, так, і якщо в нас використовується was, тобто це однозначно має бути іменник в однині або незлічувальний іменник. В будь-якому іншому випадку ми просто не зможемо далі використати was. Then in 36. So one researcher said that there is a 5-degree difference in temperature. So maybe that would be logical to have here some information on where, like in what place. Да, тут в нас говориться, що є різниця в температурі в 5 градусів, і логічно, що далі в нас буде йти інформація, наприклад, де. Де така різниця в температурі? Або чому? Then, in 37, we can see that access to these trees, that is a subject. У нас ця частинка, access to these trees, доступ до дерев, буде підметом в цьому реченні. І далі в нас є підмет, і далі йде пропуск. Тобто, якщо в нас є підмет, далі в нас, відповідно, має йти присудок. So here we will look for a verb, so it can be a usual verb or it can be a modal verb. Тобто тут нам щось потрібно, що може бути присудком. Тут у нас має бути або звичайне дієслово, або модальне дієслово. And in 38, so again, let's look at the phrase before the gap. We have, it could be one way for humans. So we have the phrase way, a phrase with way, спосіб. And in phrases with way, so after way, we can use a way to do something or a way of doing something. So just you need to learn phrases, you need to learn collocations, and if you know what we use after way, it will be very easy for you to find the correct option. Тут після way ми можемо використати або інфінітив, way to do something, спосіб щось зробити, або way of doing something, також спосіб щось зробити. Тому тут будемо шукати або інфінітив, або of і герундій. Okay, so we have predicted, we have anticipated what we will, what information we need to use in these gaps. And now let's look at the options. So now I will give you 1 minute to look through the text once again. So choose the best option which suits every gap, and then we will discuss it all together. So I give you around 1 minute to do it on your own. And when you are ready with some answers, please put them in the chat, but also put the number. So when you are ready with the answers, just you can put them to the chat straight away. We will discuss them after. So I've got a question. What means trunk? So a trunk, that is the part of the tree, like the lower part of the tree. Trunk, that is стовбур дерева. But if you don't know some words from the text, then just try to skip them, try to ignore them, and try to look at the and then at the grammar and also at the context. Okay, so I'm waiting for the answers for number 33, and we will start discussing it all together. Okay, I can see the first answer for number 33. So let's wait for some more, and then we'll start discussing. Waiting for some more. Let's have 3 answers in the chat, and then we'll discuss. Okay. Yeah, okay, I can see 3 answers for number 33, and actually you are right. You are absolutely right. Yeah, now we have more answers. 33, that is G. So the team was studying how koalas regulated. Вони вивчали, як коали це роблять. That is logical. That is what we have predicted with you. And let's go to number 34. Okay, yeah, I can see that. A lot of you say that 34, that is H. Or 34, that is D, not H. Okay, D, that is D, right. Koalas hug tree. Why? In order to keep cool and avoid. Yeah, and that is very, very logical, and that is very good grammatically, because we can say in order to keep cool, so that is infinitive. In order to keep cool and avoid. So we have 2 infinitives, to keep cool and avoid. Для того, щоб їм було прохолодніше, і для того, щоб не So, to avoid dehydration, щоб уникнути дегідрації, зневоднення. Then 35. You say that is B. So let me look through your ideas for 35. A, So remember that after 35 we have was, yeah, so then there must be a noun. And that is actually H here, the weather, when the weather was hot. Yeah, so we have the weather, that is an uncountable noun, and after that we have was hot. And that is also good in terms of the meaning. So it says that when the weather was hot, the animals moved to the lower, cooler parts of the trees. Тобто, коли була погода прохолодніша, коли погода була жаркою, вони, тобто коали, більше займали місце на нижніх частинах дерева. Yeah, so we look at the grammar, but also the meaning. Meaning and logic is also important in this task. Then, number 36. So we said that we need to have some information about the place, yeah, so where this temperature, where there is this difference in temperature, and that is A, between a tree trunk and the air. Good. 37. Access to the trees, and the answer is F. So access to the trees, that is the subject, then can save about half of the water. І тут can save, да, йде як присудок. В цьому реченні все добре, все узгоджено. And 38, that is E. So 38 is E. Because, so after we have way, yes, after way we need to use an infinitive or of plus gerund. We don't have anything with of and gerund, but we have infinitive to survive increasingly hot summers. And that suits this gap perfectly. Good. So thank you. I can see so many correct answers. That is a great result. So you can see that predictions really help. And let's look at the options which we haven't used. So we haven't used around the tree trunk, and we haven't used that koalas sat upright. Yeah, now we can make sure we understand that these parts are not suitable for any of the gaps. And so after that, also, I recommend you to read the text once again. So look through it once again, make sure all sounds logical, all sounds nice. So we have checked it together with you, so we will not read this again, but do it at your test. Just look through the completed text once again. And let's look at some words in this text. So we have got, so that is the text about some research. Yeah, and we have such words as researchers, scientists, and a study. So all of them are nouns. But let's look at some other parts. So we know that there are root families in English. So there are root families, тобто є однокорінні слова. And we know that when we study some new words, when we learn some new words, we also check the root families. So we check words of other parts of speech with the same root. Коли ми вчимо нові слова, ми також, я вам рекомендувала перевіряти однокорінні слова і слова з цим коренем інших частин мови. So we will try to look at some examples with you. So we know that research, that can be a verb, досліджувати, that can be a noun, research, дослідження, or a researcher, дослідник. And we can form an adjective, that will be searching. Searching, it can be, it can mean ретельний, or it can mean той, що досліджується. For example, searching questions. Then let's look at the next one. So we have a noun, science, наука, scientist, науковець. We don't have a verb like that, but we have an adjective, scientific, науковий. So I'm sorry, in the chat I have a question. What means upright? Upright, it means прямо. So I'm sitting upright. Тобто я не лежу, а сиджу прямо. Тобто тулуб перпендикулярно. So and the next one, that is study. So study can be used as a verb. Вивчати. So also study can be a noun. It can be a study. Дослідження або результати дослідження. Або наукова робота. And student, that can mean student, учень, so that is understandable. And also we have adjectives. It can be studious. So studious, it means a person who studies a lot. For example, it can be a studious man or a studious woman or person. And also studied. So studied can mean very careful, or it can mean intentional. Studied може означати дуже ретельний, for example, a studied answer. Or it can mean intended, so for example, навмисний. For example, studied disrespect, навмисна неповага. And now let's look at 3 sentences and let's try to fill in the gaps with some of the words from this table. So we will start with the first one. And let's try to think what we can use in this gap. Our conclusions are based on research. So first of all, let's think which part of speech can be used here. So research, that is a noun, research, іменник. So then before it, that is logical to use an adjective to describe it. Та логічно, що перед research в нас буде прикметник. І давайте подумаємо, який в нас може бути research. Яке може бути дослідження? Yeah, for example, scientific. Yeah, very often we use it as a phrase. Very often we use them together. Scientific research. Наукове дослідження. Then let's move to number 2. The was published in the British Medical Journal. So what can be published? And here it will be the study. Yeah, study – наукова робота або результати якогось дослідження, вивчення. So the study was published. Okay? And number 3, 10 years ago I began. So let's stop here for a second. Let's think in number 2. Is it possible to use research? Here we can't use research in number 2. We use the study because research, that is more about the process. So that is a complex process of studying something, finding out something. But the study, that is more about the result. So we can't publish the research itself, but we can publish, for example, the findings of the research or the results of the research or the study. Ми не можемо опублікувати research, тому що це більше про процес усе ж таки. Але ми можемо надрукувати findings or results, тобто результати цього дослідження. So in number 2 we use study. And number 3, 10 years ago I began into the role of women in trade unions. And again, collocations, again, set phrases here. So we will use I began researching into. And very often after research, we will use into. So research into something, or research, it can be research on something. З research дуже часто будемо вживати або into, або on. Тобто дослідження чогось. Research into something or research on something. Good. Let's go on. And also here one more very important moment that speaking about nouns, research is uncountable, but study is countable. So study can be used in plural and it can be used in singular, but research is always uncountable. Let's go on. So some more word families, and let's start with anticipate. So we have a verb anticipate, передбачати. We have an adjective anticipated, передбачений або очікуваний. And what is the noun? So anticipate is a verb, anticipated is an adjective. What is the noun? Okay, you can put your ideas to the chat if you know this word, or you can try to guess, and then we will check it together. So what will be the noun? Передбачення, очікування, and that is anticipation, right? Yeah, and there is a very nice phrase, in anticipation of something, в очікуванні чогось. Good. Let's go on. So number 2 is really, really easy. Exploration. That is a noun, дослідження. Unexplored or explored. That is an adjective. And the verb, that is very easy. That is explore. Досліджувати. The next one is discover. So we need a noun and we have an adjective undiscovered, or it can be discovered. And the noun is that is discovery. Yeah, so we have discovery channel. Discovery – відкриття. Discover – відкривати щось, а discovery – відкриття, undiscovered – щось ще не відкрите. Then the next one – invent – винаходити. Invention – винахід, inventory – винахідник, and an adjective is inventive. Yeah, and we can use inventive to talk about people. For example, it can be translated as винахідливий, so an inventive person. Good, next, reaction. That is a noun, reactive, an adjective, and the verb, I'm sure you know it all, so that is very similar to Ukrainian, and that is react. Good. Moving on to number 6, combine, combination, and an adjective is can be combined. Combined, спільний. Yeah, for example, combined effort or combined work. Good. Number 7. To notice. That is a verb. Помічати. Also, it can be a noun, notice. And noticeable, that is an adjective. Noticeable, помітний. And notice as a noun, it can mean, so actually it has different meanings. So it can mean попередження, it can mean зауваження, or it can be замітка. So notice has many different meanings as a noun. And the last one, so we have observation or observer as nouns. Observation – спостереження, observer – той, хто спостерігає. Observant – yeah, that is спостережливий, that is an adjective. And the verb is to observe. Спостерігати, so to watch something carefully and for a long time. Good. Ready to practice? And now we will need to use some of these words, some of the words from the previous slide in these gaps. So the first letter is given, but try to think which part of speech we need to use here. And I'm waiting for your answers to the chat. So we will start discussing the first one. And let's read what we have here. Do you believe that computers are the greatest of all time? So waiting for your ideas for number 1. So if we have here the greatest, then after that we will need to use a noun, yes, because the greatest, that is an adjective, so it must be followed by a noun. And that is invention, yes, винахід, the greatest invention of all time. Good. Number 2. Amanda had an allergic to the chemicals. So what can be allergic? And beginning with R. And we have, before the gap, we have an, yeah, and we have an adjective. So then, again, we will need to use a noun. Because if we have article, if we have an article and if we have an adjective, then after them we will need to use a noun. And that will be reaction, allergic reaction to. Good. Then the next one, if you look through this telescope, you can, millions of stars. So what can you do with the stars? You can look at them carefully for a long time, attentively, and that means that you can observe them. Good. Observe, спостерігати. Number 4. Space is going to be the greatest adventure for the human race. And again, so we understand that we need to use a noun here, yes, because after that we have the verb is going to be. And yeah, you're right, that will be exploration. Yes, space exploration, because we need a noun. Дослідження космосу. And very often, when we talk about space, we use such words as explore, exploration, explorer. So they are very, very frequently used to talk about space. Дослідження космосу. Дуже часто, коли говоримо про космос, якраз зустрічаються такі слова. Exploration, explore. Good. The 5th. Do we know who was responsible for the of electricity? And again, we understand that we need a noun, yes, because we have article, we have the article there. And after that, we have of electricity. So here, a noun must be used. And that is discovery, of course. Відкриття електричества. Хто відкрив електричество? Good. 6. They waited in of the eclipse of the moon. Eclipse – it's затемнення. Затемнення місяця. So they waited in, and again we need to use a noun here, yeah? And that will be in anticipation. Вони були в очікуванні, in anticipation of something, в очікуванні чогось. That is a very good phrase. So you can remember it and you can even use it for your writing, yeah, for your letter in the last part of the test. And the last one, the scar of Linda's face is still quite. So after quite, we usually use adjectives. So which adjective beginning with N can be used here? And the scar, it means шрам. And the scar was noticeable, помітний. Yeah, okay, we've got some correct answers. Thank you. Good job. Now some more things connected to technologies and science, and I'm sure that you recognize them all. First of all, let's just look at the pictures and let's discuss what we see here. So in the picture A, we can see a washing machine. B, that is a smartwatch. C, some things connected, so which people can use in the hospitals. And D, that is a hammer, молоток. And we have 4 words. We have 4 pictures and we have 4 words. So let's try to think about which picture we can use each word. About which picture we can say that that is a gadget, which is a tool, equipment, and appliance. So what do you think about A? Is it a gadget, tool, equipment, or appliance? Yeah, all these words are very similar and the translation might be similar, but there is a difference between them. So we will discuss it. But first of all, so let's try to match. So what is A? What do you think is that? Yes, and A is an appliance. Good. Then B, what would you say about B? Gadget, okay, that is the easiest one. Then C. C is equipment. And D, so that is tool, a tool. Okay, that was not hard to do, but let's look at what is the difference between all these words. So first of all, we can use appliance to talk about some things which we use at home. So they are used in the house. And appliances, some examples of appliances can be a washing machine, a dishwasher, an electric oven, a microwave oven, and etc. So appliance that can be побутові електроприбори. So something that we use at home. Then D. Gadget. So gadget, that is usually we say gadget when we talk about some small things. They are usually smart, and so they are very innovative. And yeah, so usually small in size. Then when we say equipment, we speak about some things which we need for a particular purpose. So usually that is a set of some things which we need, set of some machines, for example, which we need to do something. So usually that is something big and that is something complex. Or also we can use equipment to talk about спорядження, екіпування. Тобто equipment це може бути певна кількість, тобто різні машини, різні інструменти, які використовуються для якоїсь мети, зазвичай вони складні, великі, або equipment може використовуватись в значенні спорядження. So it can be hiking equipment, swimming equipment, and etc. And the last one here, that is a tool. So tool, we use tool to speak about some very simple instruments for doing specific special jobs. For example, a hammer, молоток, saw, пила, and etc. So usually that is something very simple. But here we have 4 more words. So let's try to match the other words with their definitions. So we have engine, device, machine, and instrument. So first of all, let's try to find the definition for engine. Engine – двигун. So So let's try to find which definition suits this word. Which definition is for engine двигун? B. No, that is not really B, because it's not a piece of equipment. But that is F, the part of a machine that produces power from petrol, steam, or oil. Cars have an engine, also planes, and etc. So different means of transport, they have engine in it. So engine, двигун. Then device. And device, that is a machine or tool that does a special job. And so these two words, device and gadget, they are very, very similar. So what is the difference between them? Usually we use gadget to talk about something small. And device, it can be something bigger. So a gadget is usually smaller, device can be bigger. Also, when we say gadget, usually we talk about when we say gadget, usually we talk about something very innovative, something very new. And device, it can be something that is not that new. Usually when we say a device, we mean something bigger. Often such things have a monitor, for example, or a display, and it might be not that new, not very, very new, not very innovative. Some examples of devices can be a computer, a laptop, a TV set. Then we have machine, that is B, okay, a piece of equipment which uses electricity, petrol, and some other source of power to work. And instrument, that is G. And again, what is the difference between an instrument and a tool? So a tool is usually very, very simple. Instrument is more complex, so that is more sophisticated. And that is some equipment we use for exact or difficult work. For example, we can use some instruments in medicine, science, or music. When we talk about musical instruments, also we use this word, yeah? So like guitar, piano, so they are musical instruments. Now let's try to fill in the gaps with this word. But we have 6 sentences, we have 6 gaps, and we have 8 words. So it will be more challenging for us. So let's try to read the sentences and let's choose. Let's do it all together and let's discuss each one. So let's discuss all the sentences one by one. And we'll start with the first one. All students at the school have the opportunity to learn an. And if we have an, then the next word will start with a vowel. So what can students learn at school? So we can use here. So your ideas, waiting for your answers. They can learn an instrument. Yes, of course. So they can learn some musical instruments, for example, learn how to play them. Then number 2, there is plenty of space for all the usual kitchen. So we have the word kitchen. And we say kitchen appliances. Yeah, so some things which we use at home in our kitchen. Good. Then the fax is broken. And your ideas, what is number 3? I can see many correct answers for number 2. Well done. Waiting for your answers for number 3. And that is machine, the fax machine. Good. Number 4. I fastened my seatbelt and turned on the... So, seatbelt. Я пристібнула ремень безпеки і включила. So, what do you turn on? After you fasten your seatbelt, then it means that you are maybe in the car. So, what can you turn on? And that is definitely engine. Yeah, so you turned on the engine. І включила мотор. Number 5. A good kit should contain. And we have some examples. What it should contain. Pliers, screwdrivers, and wire cutters. So they are all examples of tools. Yeah? A good toolkit. Тобто тут у нас які слова? Pliers, кусачки, викрутки, якісь ножиці, щоб перерізати дроти. So that is about tools. Good. And number 6. A good compass is an essential piece of equipment. Спорядження. And that is also important to remember that equipment is an uncountable noun, and very often we use it with a piece of equipment or an item of equipment. Слово equipment – це ми по собі не злічувальне, але якщо ми хочемо сказати про одну якусь частину спорядження або декілька, ми можемо використати в фразі a piece of equipment or an item of equipment. And so we've discussed some inventions and some discoveries, but that is the time for us to make sure we know what is the difference. What is the difference between invent and discovery? On this slide, you can see 2 pictures of very famous, very important, renowned scientists. That is Marie Curie and Alexander Bell. So let's think. Who of them invented something and who of them discovered? So which word we can use in each of the sentences? So your ideas. Marie Curie invented or discovered radioactivity? So waiting for your ideas to the chat. What we can use in A and what to use in B. A, that is discovered, yes, and B, invented. So Marie Curie discovered radioactivity and Alexander Bell invented the telephone. So the difference is very simple and understandable. So when we use discovered for something that had existed before a person discovered it. So for example, radioactivity had existed before Marie Curie discovered this. So she didn't create it, she didn't make it, but she found out how it works. She found out that it exists. Тобто ми вживаємо discover, коли ми говоримо про якісь відкриття. Це щось, що існувало до того, але було не вивчено, було невідомо. And we use invent when we talk about creation of something new. So Alexander Bell invented the telephone, so he created the telephone, he made it. Because the phone didn't exist, so it hadn't existed before Alexander Bell invented it, and we can say that, yeah, he created this technology. Invent використовуємо, коли говоримо про щось нове, про щось створене. Те, що не існувало раніше. And we have some more words which can be easily confused. That is discover, invent, explore, find out, learn, inspect. Okay, I can see a question about outfit. Outfit, it means одяг, наряд. So let's look at the words on this slide and let's try to match them with the definitions. And the first one says, obtain knowledge or a skill through studying and training. So which word we use to say that we obtain knowledge or a skill through studying or training? And we learn. Вивчаємо. Number 2. Learn something you didn't know, especially through deliberate effort. Тобто дізнатись щось. Дізнатись щось, чого не знали раніше. And that is find out. Find out, that is to learn about something, like to get to know some information. Then number 3. Become aware of something you didn't know before, or find somebody or something by chance. And that is discover, відкрити. Then 4. Create or make up something for the first time. Create or make up something for the first time. So if it's about creating something new, that is invent, of course. Then 5. Investigate something. A place or a specific field systematically in order to find out more facts about it. And that is explore. Досліджувати. And the last one, that is inspect. Yeah, inspect, that is a synonym to check or examine something. Перевірити щось. And, of course, some practice. Now we will need to use these words in the sentences. And we'll start with the first one. So we have such words as learn, find out, discover, invent, explore, and inspect. Also, when you put answers to the chat, please put the numbers, because it will be difficult for me to understand which answer is for which sentence. And what did Captain Cook do with Australia in 1770? So, probably not invented, but he discovered. Yeah, Captain Cook discovered Australia in 1770 because Australia had existed before that. We just didn't know about it. And Captain Cook discovered it. Відкрив. Number 2. The Apollo program was set up to outer space. So if it's about space, very often we will use the word explore. To explore outer space, щоб досліджувати відкритий космос. Number 3. The insurance company has to my car before paying me for the damage. So here we need a synonym to the word check. Check or examine. And I need to inspect my car. Перевірити. 4. Craig has decided to attend classes in order to French. So French, that is a language. So what can we do with a language? And of course, we can learn it. Good. 5. Did you, whether you are working this weekend or not? And that will be, did you find out? Чи ти вже дізнався, чи дізналась, чи будеш ти працювати на вихідних? Або не будеш. And number 6, Marconi. And of course, invented the radio. Винайшов. Wonderful. Some more practice for us. So this now we will do a use of English task. And again, so you have a text and you will need to use the correct word to fill in the gap in this text. So first of all, I will give you 10 seconds to look through the text and understand what is the topic, what it tells about, and then we'll be able to discuss it. Okay, so the text is about radio waves. You have it in the title. Again, something about technologies. And let's start. Let's look at the first gap and let's look at the words which can be used here. So we have such options as discovery, confirmation, invention, and evidence. Discovery – відкриття, confirmation – підтвердження, invention – винахід, evidence – докази. So let's look what can be used here when we speak about radio waves. So radio waves had existed before that. So it's not an invention, but that is a discovery. Відкриття радіохвиль. You're right. Yeah, so that is definitely A. Number 2. Radio waves are used for the transmission of electronic pulses that sounds. And we have options. A. Illustrate. B. Picture. C. Reflect. D. Represent. So let's think logically here. We can't use here illustrate and picture because they can be used as verbs. Yeah, we need a verb here in this gap. So illustrate and picture can be verbs, but they are used, for example, when we say to give, to give some examples or to show a picture of something. Illustrate picture не можемо використати, тому що ці слова, як дієслова, ми можемо використати, коли даємо якісь приклади чогось, тобто приклади, щоб проілюструвати щось, або коли говоримо про якісь картинки. Reflect. So, reflect – відбивати, тобто відбивати найчастіше, наприклад, зображення може бути. And represent – представляти. So here we choose represent. Yeah, so because electronic pulses, they represent. Оці електричні коливання, якщо я правильно кажу, вони представляють звуки, інформацію і малюнки в іншому вигляді. So that is D. Вони не відбивають їх, reflect, а вони їх представляють. Number 3. Scottish physicist James Maxwell first the existence of radio waves in the 1860s. And we have predicted, judges, reckoned, and valued. So we understand that we can't use here be because the whole text is in the past tense. So we talk about past. And judges, that is present, so it's not suitable. Then predict, predicted, передбачив, reckoned, that is a synonym to supposed, він думав або вважав, and valued, оцінював. And, of course, that is A. Він передбачив їх існування. Good. Number 4. Have capacity, possibility, probability, and certainty. And here we need to know phrases. We need to know set expressions because before the gap we have the word a real. And with real, we can use possibility. So very often they can be used together as a set phrase. Real possibility. Because we can't say real capacity, we can't say real probability, we don't say real certainty, but there is a phrase real possibility of something. Number 5. At a common, following, successive, or later date. And it will be, in 5, we will use D, at a later date. Тобто в якусь дату, якийсь час пізніше від того моменту, про який ми говоримо, пізніше того часу, про який ми говоримо. Because we use following and successive when something comes after something else. following successive використовуємо в значенні наступний, тобто той, що йде одразу після чогось іншого. А later date – просто дата пізніше. And the last one, 6, it was the first lucky, profitable, successful, or fortunate. So we have here synonyms lucky and fortunate. Удачливий, везучий, щасливий. So maybe we can't use it about these wireless radio signals. Profitable, that's about money. Also, we have no information about money here. So we will use C, that is successful. Okay, wonderful. And so one more thing, we will skip this one. But the last thing I want to discuss with you is this. So let's look at this slide and let's try to choose one more. So let's do one more task like that. So let's try to choose the correct option. His book provided a scientific of human behavior. And we have options: analysis, analytical, analysis with another spelling, and analyze. So which word is the best here? His book provided a scientific, and we will use here analysis. So we have the article a before the gap. So we understand that we need to use a noun in singular, so a singular noun, and it must be countable. And analysis with I, that is a singular noun. So let's pay attention. Let's remember that when we use analysis with I, it is singular, це однина. If we use analysis with I, it will be plural. Тобто analysis з I однина, з I множина. So let's look at some more tricky words like that. And let's think. So hypothesis, that is singular. So what will be plural? Plural form of hypothesis. And that is like the same as with analysis. So it will have the same spelling, but with E. Then phenomenon, that is singular, but plural is phenomena. Then the next one, data. Data, дані, інформація. And data can be used both as uncountable singular and plural. So after data, we can use a verb in singular or in plural. That is possible. We can say this data shows or these data show. Тобто слово data, інформація, дані може використовуватись як незлічувальний іменник або як іменник в множині. Тому після нього можемо використовувати дієслово в формі однини, як shows, або множини show. Then the next word, findings. And usually only in the plural form. So we use findings, як, наприклад, результати дослідження, findings of the research, we use in plural. And equipment, yeah, we've discussed with you that that is uncountable, uncountable always singular, but it can be used in phrases like a piece of equipment or an item of equipment. And so the last task for you. So in which picture we can see an innovation and which picture shows invention? And so, of course, A, that is invention, винахід, something new, and innovation, that is B, because we can see a better version, a better model of something that already exists. So we will try to look at some more easily confused words, and we will try to see the difference between them. So let's do this task very, very quickly, and you will be free for today. So in number 1, we have two words, research and experiment. Research, дослідження, experiment, that is clear, experiment. So what is better to use in A, research or experiment? And what we can use in B? And in A, we will use research. дослідження. So the Center for Research in this field, Центр досліджень. And we remember that research, that is uncountable. So we don't have any articles here before the gap. So that is good. That is okay. We can use research. And then they carried out a series of experiments. So also remember that with experiments, we can use such verbs as do. We can do experiments. We can carry out experiments, or we can conduct experiments. Please never use make with experiments. So carry out, do, or conduct. And the same with research. We can do research, we can conduct research, or we can carry out research. Одразу запам'ятовуємо, які дієслова вживаємо з цими іменниками. Then number 2, evidence, докази, findings, знову ж таки, результати чогось. And the findings. In A, the findings show that 16% of the students went on to take business courses. Тобто результати опитування чи результати дослідження, findings, always in plural. And B, that is evidence. At present, we have no evidence of life on other planets. Тобто в нас немає доказів існування життя на інших планетах. Then the next one, hypothesis and analysis. So what we can confirm? Confirm, підтвердити. And we can confirm our hypothesis. Yeah? Good. And we can start with a brief analysis. Yeah, and here we have a. Yeah, so we understand that we need to use a singular noun, and analysis with I, that is a singular noun. If it is with E, it will be plural. Then for data, дані або інформація, and sample, зразок. Зразок для вивчення. The research involves collecting from two random and we can collect data from two random samples. Можемо зібрати дані з двох різних зразків. Зразки для вивчення. Then number 5, theory and practice. The approach seemed like a good idea but it has proved far too expensive. And we will use in theory and in practice for B. В теорії здавалось добре, на практиці виявилось дуже дорого. Also, very often we use preposition in with practice and theory. We can say in practice в теорії, in theory в теорії, in practice на практиці. And the last one, invention and discovery. So I'm sure now you know the difference and will have no not correct answers for number 6. And a dishwasher is of course a wonderful invention, and the existence of new solar system was a new exciting discovery. Well done. So some tricky questions for you. Just waiting for your answers, yes or no. Have people ever invented any new continents? Have people ever invented any new continents? And surely no, because they have discovered the continents, but we can't invent them. Then number 2, is equipment always singular? Or maybe we can use equipment in plural. And that is yes. So that is always singular. It is uncountable, but we can say a piece or an item of equipment. Number 3, are innovation and invention synonyms? And surely no. So they are not. Innovation, that is something that is newer, that is better than the old version of something. And invention, it is something absolutely new, something created for the first time. So is research both a noun and a verb? Yes, it can be. So research can be a noun or it can be a verb. And the last one, can we use make with experiments or research? Can we say make experiments or make research? And no, never say like that. That will be a mistake. We can do experiments, we can conduct experiments, or we can carry out. So the same with research. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your work. I could see so many correct answers in the chat today. So thank you for being active and have a wonderful week. If you have any questions, you can leave them under the video on YouTube and I'll try to answer them at the next webinar. So thanks a lot. Have a wonderful week and see you next Monday. Goodbye.